Well, according to experts, severe isolation can be extremely harmful to our overall health. Author and happiness specialist Dannie De Novo says there are simple ways to fight against those feelings, but it takes courage, time, and intention. Take a look.
Danny, many people dismiss loneliness as just a temporary feeling, but it can really impact our well-being. And I know so many of us experienced that in the last 2 years. So I'm so glad we're talking about this. What are some ways that loneliness can really affect our lives?
Well, loneliness can leave you feeling isolated and separated from others. That leads to further feelings of low self-esteem, lack of confidence, even anxiety and depression. You know, that's really hard stuff to deal with, especially when we're dealing with a pandemic. So this loneliness is robbing you of living a fulfilling life and robbing you of your happiness.
Exactly. And we know definitely, as you're mentioning, it can affect our mental health. But what can it do to us physically?
Loneliness is as detrimental to your health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day.
What?
And it also increases your risk of developing chronic heart disease, dementia, diabetes, and even other chronic illnesses like autoimmune disease.
Oh my gosh, I had no idea. I know it wasn't good, but I wasn't expecting you to say that. So let's talk about also not just what it does to us, but what is it doing to those around us? How is it affecting them?
Well, when you're lonely or you're depressed or anxious, that energy carries over to other people. You know, it wasn't that long ago that I was actually the expert in unhappiness. And one night I was stirring a pot on the stove, making dinner, and my baby, who wasn't even a year old, was sitting on the floor. She had a pot and a spoon, and she started mimicking me. And she looked up at me with her big brown eyes, so proud. At first, I thought it was the coolest thing I'd ever seen. But then I was almost sick because I realized she was copying everything that I was doing. And I was teaching her how to live a very lonely and depressed life. So you've got to get out of that toxic cycle because it's not just affecting you, it's affecting all of those around you.
Yes, so true. And let's actually take a step back and really define what loneliness means in this situation, because it's different from just being alone, right?
Yes. Well, when you're alone, that's just it. You're by yourself. There's no one else around you. And that's fine as long as you feel good about it. But when you start getting into this negative emotional state of feeling lonely, separated, and disconnected, that's when it really starts to do damage to you. You can realize that you can be lonely and be surrounded by people.
Right, right. I had a great quote that I always remembered that I heard years ago. You're only lonely if you don't like the person you're alone with. And that kind of strikes at the heart of what we're going to get to today. We want people to get back feeling good about themselves. That way they can get back connecting to other people. And you have a way of doing that. So let's dive in.
Yes, this is the stuff I like to talk about. So I use the acronym HAPPY. H stands for habit. You've got to start changing the way you do things every day. If you want that happiness and you want to get rid of the loneliness, you've got to be brave. And that means you've got to go out and start doing things you wouldn't normally do. Try a new class, a new hobby. Just integrate yourself with people you wouldn't normally engage with. When you change your habits, you change your life. The A is for appreciate. It's really easy to look for the stuff that we feel like is missing in our lives. But when you train yourself to look for the good, more and more good stuff just keeps coming in. And that includes good relationships.
That is so true. I tell my husband this because he can be a worrywart, which I appreciate about him. But I'm always like, stop and smell the roses. You know, you have to have that moment where you acknowledge the good. So I love that. All right, now let's move on to P.
P. The first P is purge the past. When you hang on to that negativity of the past, you're just carrying around that toxic energy around in your heart all day long. No one wants to be around that toxic energy. You've got to let go of the past. You don't live there anymore.
No, we don't.
And neither does your happiness. The other P is purpose. You just heard the story about me and my daughter. Her happiness and my happiness became my purpose. I had to find it. So I made the decision right then and there to change my toxic cycle and change my patterns. You can do the same thing. When you go out seeking that happiness, it will find you. And of course, the Y also stands for you. Your relationship with yourself is the most important one. So focus on yourself because you are the only one that can keep that loneliness from killing you and change that loneliness into happiness.
You've made me very happy, Danny. Thank you so much. This is great advice. And I hope that you've inspired our viewers. And if they are unfortunately feeling that loneliness weighing on them, hopefully they'll break out of it. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, thanks for that information, Danny. You can visit her online at DannieDeNovo.com for more happiness tips.